I love just thinking about the picture of Vector Man, like, in action, stuff like that.
Welcome back to Side Quests and our third episode of The Games That Shape Me. Today, we're joined by Mike G, a musician, retro game fan, and someone you're likely already familiar with. For his new projects like Versus GT3, his years of work with Odd Future, and even some recent freestyles you probably caught in your timeline. So I figured we'd touch base about his history with gaming, his personal Pokemon card collection, and of course, the video games that shaped his perspective in one way or another. From Sonic 2 to Pokemon Stadium 2, here are the games that shaped Mike G. I know you've personally, been a fan of like classic games. Visually, you've always played or paid homage. Do you remember your introduction to gaming and your first console?
My introduction, not so much. My first console was a Genesis, going through the one-player games, watching. I never had a problem with watching people play video games. So like that market is, it makes all the sense to me. But just like playing like Aladdin and stuff with him, the one-player games, just waiting for turns and going back and forth. Then when you get like a two-player game, like even something like Sonic, where you can control Tails, even though it's not a two-player game necessarily, but you could have the interaction like that. That's really like the first iteration of just playing with like my brother, and then all the way up to Sega Dreamcast with my uncle and stuff, and then that's when stuff got kind of rolling on its own. But yeah, when I started living with my father, it definitely became a PlayStation dude. So like Sony and all of that was heavy. Then we signed to Sony, so I just held on to it. But yeah, I
Hmm.
was heavy into PlayStation, especially when I was making my own money. It was just automatically ingrained. That was probably like PS2 and stuff like that. Just like figuring out like those balance in the time, and then you got people that get good at video games, so of course I want to be good at video games and Call of Duty and stuff. And then like I remember like my dad would make the leaderboards of zombies and stuff like that, so it was like really just a household thing. Just PlayStation being here, it was like it had to happen. First game, actually it might have been like MX Motocross, like on
Okay.
PlayStation 2. I want to say one of those, but to be honest, I was stealing games out of like places I shouldn't have been stealing from. So I had military parent both my parents were in the military. So like getting those games was it was my own experience for
We're gonna
sure.
go through game by game with this list that you had shared. I think starting with the oldest one, which would have been Sonic the Hedgehog 2, you would have been like 2 years old, so I'd imagine you played a little later. What was your experience with Sonic 2 like?
It was always really just noticing that I had started with the second one for some reason. Being the, my mother's second child, I don't know. It might have just been a thing. And then, Tails was introduced there. And so like the the real imagery and even the two on the cover being checkerboard, like
Hmm.
it was like, I don't know, it just so ingrained. And then I don't know, nothing else could do that. And I know it was, Sonic was uh Sega's answer to Nintendo, of course, with Mario. So like having that dynamic, it didn't even really compare to me. It was always Sonic. I added the Green Hill Zone uh theme song like last year onto my Apple, and like I listened to it like it's a regular song. So
What's
yeah,
what
it's
are like the
hilarious.
circumstances where you listen to it? Is it like on a plane, on a car?
Yes, definitely cruising. My shuffle is undefeated, so my shuffle's the best DJ, I say for sure. So it'll give me the right time, I feel. But
Are
yeah,
there any other game soundtracks that you like kind of explore in your free time?
definitely going through it just because I like history and like I do research just with different elements of things. So like I'll have those moments, and of course coming across like if it's something that'll be in a random TikTok videos, people play the amount of games people play is extremely widespread. So like I can't have them all, in my database. So like finding a new one is really like what I live for. So like I'll go and listen to the soundtrack as much as I can tolerate, stuff like that. Like I mean when Wiz Khalifa sampled Chrono Trigger, like
Hmm.
that was really my introduction to that. And then even like artists that used to affiliate with our future, Brandon Deshay. He
Hmm.
was like real heavy into video game soundtrack and like chip tune stuff like that. So like the stuff that he would make, it was really a good nuance, and I like appreciate that elements of like into being integrated into music. So
The next game that you got here, I think in like the order of when they came out would have been Vector Man 2. That came out in like 96. I actually
okay,
read looking into this that that was like Sega's response to Donkey Kong Country.
okay,
Kind of like the 3D models and trying to kind of have some competition for that, which I can sort of see now, I suppose. But
yeah.
what were your thoughts on that sequel back then, and what are your thoughts today when you play that game?
Vector Man 2 was actually the same case as Sonic. It was like started with the second one, and you realize going back what they did innovate on and everything that they did change. And that's probably when I noticed like developer talents and like how they pay attention to continuity and stuff like just the little green orbs and everything that's floating around and like how you could upgrade that into another it's the same style but it's like putting hands on it. So I don't even think Vector Man 2 could be more than like a developer's right passion project or something like that because it I don't see the widespread impact of it or even at the moment it was like I'm sure it was an ambitious thing. So like and in that just the knowledge of knowing what Donkey Kong Country was, it was extremely innovative. So like having to follow up to that, I'm appreciating it more and more now. So I can contrast it to like a Conker's Bad Fur Day because as I said, my parents weren't allowing the too much smut across the door, that type of stuff. So like I never got to experience that until I say like 2 years ago. Conker's Bad Fur
Really?
Day, stuff like that. So like yeah, just knowing the how the innovation varies and stuff, it'll definitely stick with you. Stuff like that. I love just thinking about the picture of Vector Man, like, in action, stuff like that.
And obviously Vector Man 2, Sonic 2. We got another 2 next, Pokemon Stadium 2. What do you think prompted that jump for you from Sega to Nintendo, even if it wasn't something you thought about? Like what about the N64 kind of like found its way into your life?
The Nintendo 64 probably just overall as a console was like more groundbreaking than like Nintendo as a entirety, right? Because the new elements of gaming and everything, even down to the controller, you can have the polarizing opinions about it. So it's like it creates the conversation, and I can't say I can think of a gaming system too much that that I was around for that had that conversation in it, until like an Xbox or something. But even then, so just going off of Nintendo, it wasn't even so much of a switch to that company. It was just the console. So like having go get the games that are developed for Nintendo. It was like that Pokemon being inclusive of that. It was just made the most sense. This is the 151 box.
Yeah, oh my
Where
gosh,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah, definitely. And it's in here. Got some
Um,
unopened just because I like having the experience, but these are these are the ones.
uh-huh.
These are the just the like the old collection and everything down to Yu-Gi-Oh cards and all of that. Like I got mad stuff in here.
So is this a
Just
case of
like
like you kept them over the years, or did you
yeah,
like try to retrace and recollect, or
no, this is my collection from like middle school. Like
you must have
Dragon
had
Ball
some
Z cards.
foresight. Man, I got rid of all my stuff as a kid. I was an idiot.
Yeah. It was more so I don't want to say a hoarder. I just like, having the same stuff around. So it's like I'm I have the ability to keep it because I don't get tired of looking at stuff. But my mom does, of course. So like yeah, just holding on to that stuff is uh I don't want to say a challenge, but like it's kind of fun to me just to see how
Mhm.
long I can hold on to it before.
Let's get into this last game though. We
All right.
got, let me see. Oh, Def Jam Vendetta. And I've got the GameCube one of this. This is, a great like wrestling game with such like a unique twist. As a musician now, like what are your thoughts on a game where you can play as, other musicians in this kind of like wrestling environment.
Extremely momentous. And then you get video game companies being more inclusive to say a pop culture, right, to what's relevant or what's kind of breaking on the scene. If you have sports and athletes, the integration between that, bringing musicians in is like it's just a no brainer. So like the way that worked out, and I like kind of wish I did knew more like about the background, like if it was a game at first and they repurposed it to, but it's just amazing just how they really put it together. And I know it's not the first game to include rappers and stuff like that. You've had your whatever that game that had like Wu-Tang and Queen Latifah in it and everything
Hmm.
fighting and stuff. But just seeing that and then the people you get involved is so heavy. It being Def Jam, just having access to a Redman, even down to a Joe Budden, then you get a Snoop Dogg who's not a Def Jam artist is extremely crazy to me. The it was so mind blowing. Even like down to Jacob the Jeweler being on there is really amazing. Honestly, Suspect was crazy. Like it was this hidden character on there, and I was doing a little bit of uh, research recently, and they're saying it might have been Jay Z, like character format for Jay Z. Of course, that licensing I could imagine, like just having to get him in the game would have been the biggest ticket they would have been paying. So, but to have him like on there, Snoop Dogg was amazing. I'm trying to remember. Oh, DMX. Yeah,
Hmm.
DMX for sure.
There would be a headache with the licensing, like you said, but do you think it's something that would be capable of like making a comeback today, whether that's like a remaster or like a brand new iteration of it?
Undoubtedly, I think they could bring Def Jam Vendetta back into the circulation. Just we seen Def Jam Icon not do
Hmm.
too well, and that was like just victim of ambition, and you can't even like fault them for that. So
Hmm.
it's really I don't want to say missing out on not having a new one, but just like I do wish they would take the time to sit down and like really process what it needs to look like or what they can do. But yeah, I would love a new Def Jam. Even a couple years ago would have made the most sense. You had Vince Staples on Def Jam, a Big Crit. Those are just like my favorite artists and stuff. So like
Hmm.
seeing them to be play them on a video game would have been the most epic. There's mediums they could take. There's ways to get this going, and I know it could be a thing. So anytime anybody's ready to start on it, we could try to make the campaign, and I'm with it. I'm a join.
Which of these, between Sonic, Vector Man, Pokemon Stadium, Def Jam, do you think had the soundtrack that, either most resonated with you then or most resonates with you now as a musician?
Soundtrack wise, for sure, it would be Def Jam, Vendetta, just because those, it's real songs, stuff they got. Um, Joe Budden's second hit is on there, so when people say Joe Budden only has one song, I'll be like, but stuff like that, it's real, yeah, real impactful to me for sure. Just having those songs, being able to play them, even down to like or going back to like a Tony Hawk, which would have more uh widespread genres and everything, so that being introductory. But the real songs are just like it's yeah, there's nothing like it for sure.
Like in what
Yeah,
ways would you say these games, not even these specifically, but gaming in general has, crept its way into the work that you do?
yeah, I'm easily a reference artist, like in style and writing and stuff. That's my term of a impactful bar we'll go to say is just to say the thing in the cleanest way. So if I can bring that into music, it'll just be blatant references. So like, yeah, of course, it's just, and even with the verses three, the cover is a cross between like a racing game and a standing arcade cabinet. So that's I call it the cross cabinet. But yeah,
Hmm.
just little things like that, and like trying to figure out how to even innovate on things that are like not more standard, but more widespreadly known. And these are coming from video game developers and creators. So like their standard on innovation is just like out of this world. So like having to take those, or like being in the mind state to take those and adapt on those is really, I feel like something I'm I don't want to say good at, but that's something that I look to.